As we mentioned on yesterday's program, state Republicans who are completely fed up with Walz's nonsense have been clamoring for an end to the governor's disastrous and fraud-laden run. And now they are taking concrete steps to turn their wish into a reality by drafting a number of specific charges against him. Right now, they've already spelled out 4 distinct and official articles of impeachment against Walz, including that he violated his oath of office by intentionally concealing and covering up evidence of fraud. Additionally, they accuse the governor of obstructing and interfering with legitimate oversight and investigations concerning that fraud, prioritizing politics over the administration of state programs, and failing to protect public funds. Outside of that, he's done a bang-up job. So, the papers were drawn up by State Representative Mike Weiner, who says he came up with the idea after thoroughly reading Minnesota's Constitution. He claims that the Democrat-led fraud in his state, at least $9 billion, that Walz says the buck stops with him, and that since the governor refuses to resign, the only way to get rid of him before his term is up is to initiate proceedings, and as soon as next month. He also argues that taxpayers are calling for Walz to be put on trial for his fraud failures, and that if Minnesota Democrats don't go along with the impeachment plan, they're entirely complicit with that fraud as well. Makes perfect sense. Experts who are watching the situation closely say that, unfortunately, the process isn't very likely to succeed, in part because it's doubtful that 2/3 of Minnesota's state Senate would vote to convict Walz as required. Nevertheless, they say it's important for Republicans to introduce the measures so they can outline the specific evidence of wrongdoing which they currently have against him. A lot of wrongdoing at that. For his part, Walz is basically doing what he always does, which seems to be a whole lot of nothing. He's taken time out of his busy day, however, to call attention to the recent resignation of the top fraud prosecutor in Minnesota, who stepped down earlier this week following an apparent disagreement with Justice Department. And so, that prosecutor, he was the first person to point out that Minnesota's staggering fraud scandal could eventually add up to more than $9 billion. Also at that time, Walz accused him of speculating without any facts whatsoever. And now that he's gone, however, the governor is blaming the Trump administration for making him leave and calling the prosecutor's exit a huge loss for his state. Go figure. Final thought, and this is the News Roundup Lowdown. Impeachment is a complete waste of energy and resources, and if this Tim Walz simpleton had even an ounce of common sense, it'd save everybody a great deal of time and drama and simply bail out, clock out once and for all. Baby steps. Now, to his credit, step 1, he's already pulled himself out of the governor's race. He will not be running for a 3rd term in November. And that is a positive step forward. And step 2, just as easy. Simply resign. You return the keys to the governor's mansion and then collect, in disgrace, your final paycheck. Step 3, unemployment. The scandal-plagued failed government leader can fill out a few hundred pages of real easy-to-follow unemployment forms. And if he does it right, he's going to score himself several $100 a week to get by on while he searches for another state to dismantle. Step 4, reach out to the News Roundup host. This guy for resume tips. I'm real good with resumes. And on your resume, Tim, leave out the part where your state is under investigation for $9 billion worth of fraud. Also, an unreasonable amount of illegal immigration and far too much crime and corruption. Leave it all out. Applying for a cashier job at Staples, Mr. Walz, hiring managers, they always frown on junk like that. And I'm simply trying to help. By the way, it's a bit too late for Governor Walz to say this, but he said it. The buck stops with him. And I'm just kind of thinking out loud, but I wonder if that's code for some of the $9 billion in fraud is tucked away neatly in the attic of the governor's mansion. And like we always say on this program, show us the money.